A powerful storm hit the Greek islands of Paros and Mykonos, triggering widespread flooding and destruction. Thousands of Palestinians fled Gaza's southernmost city of Rafah after Israel issued new sweeping evacuation orders. A powerful storm hit the Greek islands of Paros and Mykonos on Monday, triggering widespread flooding and prompting authorities to close schools and impose a ban on all traffic except emergency vehicles. Heavy rainfall in Paros' main towns of Parikia and Naousa caused floodwaters that surged through streets, carrying cars and debris past whitewashed buildings. Authorities on Paros said 13 people stranded in the storm were taken by firefighters to their homes, adding that no one was reported injured or missing. On Mykonos, where the flooding was less intense, excavators were used to clear a path for floodwater, and it gushed past seafront cafes and restaurants. Several islands near Paros in the Cyclades group, which is southeast of the mainland in the Aegean Sea, remain under severe weather warnings through Tuesday. Thousands of slaughtered farm animals are set to be buried in a small town in northern Hungary near the border with Austria. They were ordered to be killed after an outbreak of foot and mouth disease on a farm in Level. It can take up to 10 days before all of the cattle animals are slaughtered. A huge animal mass grave was excavated for the more than 3,000 animals. In addition to lime and straw, a 2-meter layer of soil will be placed over the carcasses. But some locals are concerned that the carcasses could contaminate groundwater.
És attól félünk, mert sok saját kutyáink vannak, furkutyáink, és elég közel temetik itt el állatokat, nehogy szennyeződjön a ivóvízünk is. Mert jó, megígérték, hogy majd lesz vízhálózat, de nehogy előbb betörténjen valami.
The disease was identified last Wednesday, after which the decision was taken to cull the animals. Police officers are checking that only vets and workers are allowed on the affected premises. The owner of the Western Gate Cooperative, an Austrian-born Hungarian citizen, has been keeping animals in Level for 30 years. Now his entire farm could be at risk. All the cattle on the farm needs to be slaughtered, despite only 5% of the herd being infected.
Most ez egy uniós rendelet, állategészségi rendelet, hol minden tagország alatt kell dolgozni, és ottani egy fertőzött állomány pontos leírva kellene semmisíteni, weil mi ez tovább menni, igazsági lehet egész ország tud tovább fertőzni, ezt kell lokalizálni.
The mass culling of healthy cattle can also be very emotionally distressing for livestock farmers.
Folyosó behajtva állat, hol egyenként egy kalota belép, és ez a kalota ottani egy hentes fejbelül állat, és utáni meghalt állat után a kamion berakva, egy szárt kamion, hol szállít.
Trucks arriving at and leaving the farm are also disinfected. Another outbreak of foot and mouth disease has also been detected in Slovakia, with trucks having to pass through a disinfectant at the border crossing with Hungary.
A mögöttem látható telepnek 1,5 milliárd forintos kára keletkezik amiatt, hogy az összes állatot le kell ölni. Naponta 50 000 liter tejet vittek el innen, ennek hiánya is hatalmas bevételkiesést jelent. A kormány kártalanítást ígért, de az kérdéses, hogy ez mire lesz elegendő. Kis Gábor, Euronews-live.
Efforts by the US government to eliminate diversity, equity and inclusion, or DEI initiatives in Europe have not gone down well in the continent. The European Commission acknowledged awareness of a letter sent by the US administration urging companies to drop DEI programs.
We are aware of the letter that was sent by the US administration to the companies. We need to know a bit more details before we react. And as you know, and as you've pointed out, anti-discrimination and equality is based on our main values.
In France, resistance has been particularly strong after reports emerged that the US State Department demanded that French companies abandon inclusion policies, which are part of national as well as EU law. Le Figaro published what it claimed was a copy of the letter, stating that an executive order signed by President Donald Trump in January applies globally to all suppliers of the US government. French Foreign Trade Minister Laurent Saint-Martin told RTL Radio that France would not compromise on these principles. Belgium also pushed back against perceived US interference. Finance Minister Jean Jambon declared, "We have no lessons to learn from the leader of America." In a joint statement, Belgian Foreign Minister Maxime Prévost and Equal Opportunities Minister Rob Beenders condemned the move as a step backward, asserting that diversity and inclusion strengthen economies and societies. In Spain, Barcelona's mayor announced his municipal government will defy Trump's rollback of DEI initiatives, which had impacted cultural programs hosted by the city. Across Europe, leaders have stressed that diversity and inclusion are non-negotiable, a reflection of deeply held values rather than mere buzzwords.
The leader of the far-right National Rally, Marine Le Pen, was found guilty of embezzling public funds and was barred from running for office for 5 years with immediate effect. The sentence has effectively barred her from running in the 2027 presidential race, even if she appeals, something she described earlier as political death. 8 National Rally MEPs and their 12 assistants have also been found guilty and barred from running for office. Le Pen and the 24 other members have been accused of using money intended for European Parliament aides to pay staff who worked for the party. The court estimated that the European Parliament's total loss was €2.9 million, with Le Pen personally embezzling almost $500,000. 5 people were killed and 4 injured after an explosion rocked a coal mine in northern Spain on Monday. 2 of the injured people were transferred to a hospital in a city nearby to be treated for burns. Another was taken to another neighboring hospital with a head injury. Local emergency services confirmed 2 other people were uninjured in the accident. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez offered his condolences to the relatives of the deceased and thanked emergency workers. Belgium's public services and transport were heavily disrupted, and the country's 2 largest airports came to a standstill as a result of a nationwide strike. The Christian and Socialist trade unions organized the strike in protest against budget cuts announced by the government. These would impact pensions, unemployment benefits, public services, and the labor market.
Aujourd'hui, c'est vrai que le mouvement est très suivi parce que les gens en ont ras-le-bol. Il n'y a personne qui a envie de travailler jusqu'à 67 ans pour gagner moins d'argent.
Brussels Airport cancelled over 200 outbound flights and most incoming flights, while there was no in- and outbound traffic at Charleroi Airport altogether. Meanwhile, public transport across Flanders and Wallonia has been severely disrupted. Several schools are closed and certain public services are also at a standstill.
Ik snap het wel, maar aan de andere kant, er zijn ook veel mensen die naar werk moeten, die moeten studeren. Dus het is ook moeilijk voor hun. Maar ik snap ook wel wat zij willen. Maar of ze het gaan krijgen, dat weet ik niet.
De regering trekt er zich niks van aan, want de stakers, zij raken ons in plaats van wie eigenlijk moet geraakt worden.
Many Belgians feel let down by their government, and strikes are becoming increasingly more common across the country. Another nationwide strike also took place in February. Tens of thousands of people had swept the streets of Brussels to protest.
Thousands of Palestinians fled Gaza's southernmost city of Rafah on Monday, after Israel issued new sweeping evacuation orders covering most of the city and nearby areas. The chief of UNRWA, the UN agency helping Palestinian refugees, said that roughly 140,000 people are impacted by the orders, which indicate the Israeli military could soon launch another major ground operation there. Meanwhile, the Israeli military continued its ongoing ground operation in the north of Gaza and claimed to kill 50 Hamas militants there. Israel ended a ceasefire with Hamas, renewing its air and ground war earlier this month. It also cut off all supplies of food, fuel, medicine, and humanitarian aid to the enclave. The Israeli military refused to withdraw its troops from the Rafah border crossing as agreed in the ceasefire deal signed in January, and is instead proposing an alternate deal for another temporary ceasefire. Hamas has insisted on implementing the signed agreement, calling for a lasting ceasefire and an Israeli pullout in exchange for the release of the remaining hostages.
The death toll in Friday's massive earthquake in Myanmar has passed 2,000, state media reported. According to reports, the victims include 200 Buddhist monks who were crushed by a collapsing monastery. 50 children killed when a preschool classroom crumbled, and 700 Muslims struck while praying at mosques for Ramadan. While rescue operations are still ongoing, efforts have been hindered by collapsed bridges, landslides, unreliable communications, and a civil war. Aid groups say the quake could worsen hunger and disease outbreaks. Myanmar's resistance movement did announce a partial ceasefire to facilitate rescue efforts earlier. While Chinese rescue teams have pulled 6 survivors from the rubble in severely hit Naypyidaw and Mandalay, the EU has announced €2.5 million in aid for Myanmar. The epicenter of Friday's 7.7 magnitude earthquake was near the city of Mandalay. Then on Sunday, a 5.1 magnitude aftershock hit the area again. In neighbouring Thailand, rescues continue to search for survivors at the site of the collapsed building in the capital, Bangkok. There, at least 18 people have been killed, 33 are injured and 70 are missing.